This is how we can stack these technologies on top of each other to achieve basically mind-boggling automation efficiency.
You might not want to go to a robot barber, or you might not want it to be the person who serves you your food at a restaurant. Okay, welcome everybody. Excited to be here today with Calvin. He's the COO at Ksense Technology Group. And what they do is they build business software, custom software to do all kinds of specific tasks or to provide solutions to all kinds of organizations. So I'm excited to talk to Calvin today about the future of business automation. What does business automation look like now, and where's it going in the future? So thanks for joining me, Calvin.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. Awesome. So for my first question here, can you just explain to us a little bit about what automation is?
Yeah, so business automation is basically, just what it sounds like, creating processes or using tools or even, using other methods like AI to basically allow your business to run without you having to be directly involved in doing those tasks or performing that work. So there's a whole bunch of tasks out there that, people used to do by hand, obviously. Before we had really good machinery, people used to, work in factories and build things by hand. Or, for farming, before we had tractors, people used to plow by hand. And it's the same with digital businesses and information businesses, where in the old days when computers were first getting invented, people used to do a lot of stuff by hand that we just completely take for granted nowadays. Scheduling, writing, even spreadsheet stuff you might do in a spreadsheet nowadays was done completely by hand. But now we're moving one step further where, those tools that used to be considered business automation are now no longer necessarily considered business automation. Like a spreadsheet, for example, is now considered pretty manual by today's standards. So really what we're doing with business automation is continually pushing the boundary of how much can be automated to the point where, you're focused on the very best, the very highest level tasks that really require your brain power and really require your domain knowledge without having to waste time on those tasks that, may be repetitive or maybe, just sort of tasks that, a computer can do. So I hope that gives you a good idea of sort of what we're talking about when we talk about business automation.
Yeah, it's cool to think about how the definition of automation might change over time. It's hard for me to define it past just, using the word automation. But what that means over time definitely changes and shifts. And the impact that automation can have definitely changes over time, right? So let's talk about some of the benefits that people are getting from automation. What are, I guess some of the reasons that people are looking to automate business processes?
Yeah, so people's expectations tend to shift over time. We'll talk about AI a little bit, but when GPT-4 first came out, or even ChatGPT-3 first came out, people were blown away by it, and now it's just business as usual. People don't really think about it as impressive. Whereas if you would have shown this to somebody 10 years ago, they would say, "Oh, this is human level intelligence." Right? So the same with business automation, where it's like the more these systems can do for you, the more people just expect it, including customers. They expect to be able to have an automated experience where everything's streamlined for them, where they can go into the app or use your service or book a call or do whatever in a way where it doesn't really require them to do much thinking. So the main benefit of automation is that people can get more done with less effort. That's really the bottom line with it. So your customers can get more done with less effort, which means they're going to enjoy working with you more because you're not making them burn calories, to do things like, schedule a call or do calculations or figure things out that a computer could figure out. So for internal business operations, your employees are going to benefit because they don't have to do as much thinking and checking for errors and manually checking data. Things like this can be automated and really reduce the amount of effort people can put in to the parts of the business that are tedious, repetitive, error prone, things that people don't want to spend their time thinking about when they could be spending their time doing creative work. So that's really what it comes down to with business automation is how can we reduce the effort on the employees, the customers, and the business leaders, so that they can get more done with the same amount of time.
Yeah, it makes sense. So there's all these benefits that people are really looking to get from automating something, making it more efficient, making it more seamless, smooth, stress-free experience for their customer. What are some of the ways that you've seen companies do that? What are some ways that you've seen them automate either a task or just an experience for their customer?
Yeah, so the main things that businesses are doing nowadays with business automation is, it's taking their data and centralizing it. So there's just so much that can happen when all of your data is in the same place. And, it sounds pretty broad to say it that way, but if you think about it in terms of your own business, are there areas where you're having to move data that's in one place to another place? Like if you have data in a spreadsheet, or you're having to then copy that data into another system or enter that data twice into two different systems. Like there's a lot of areas where just moving data around and keeping data up to date is extremely important. Also, connecting people with the data they need. So like you have customers who need to know certain things. You have employees who need to know certain things. And when people are trying to make decisions like business leaders, they need to have certain information in front of them. Automating the flow of that data so that, that data is in front of you when you need it and it tells you what you need to know. That is a huge part of business automation. And then there's actual tasks that can be automated completely or streamlined massively by building certain systems. Like, let's say you need to send quotes to your customers. Well, there's a lot there, right? There is pricing information that you need to have access to. So maybe right now you have a big spreadsheet and it's full of different prices and then also different inventory levels. So you know what you can sell to the customer. Like, do you have this part available to sell? And if so, what's the price point of that? So how much, like when you're building the quote, if you have to put 30 of those parts in, how much is that going to be? You have to think about this in advance because it takes time to ship those parts. So it's like, if you had all that information sort of aggregated and automated so that basically all you have to do is like, okay, I need to send a quote. You pick the part you want to include, you pick the line items to include in that quote, and it just automatically, you put in the quantity and it's like, okay, here's the price for this quote, here's the total for the quote. And you also are able to project in advance, your inventory level so that you know that by the time that customer orders that part, it's going to be shipped and available to send them, right? So automating these type of processes, these are some of the things businesses do. And this is an inventory management example. There are countless examples across different industries of different use cases for business automation. And really, the main thing that we do is we build interfaces for businesses so that like apps and user interfaces that they can use to actually get work done. Sometimes businesses, they're using a spreadsheet. Well, that's an interface, right? You're opening something on your computer. You're either entering data, reading data, deleting data or updating data. And we can automate that instead of having to use a spreadsheet where errors can happen, where the data is incomplete. We can automate that and put that into a web application where these, instead of having to build each equation in the spreadsheet and making, there could be mistakes or, those constantly have to change depending on business needs. Like all that logic can be built into the web app so that all you have to do is the simple work of, let's say, building a quote and choosing what products are on it. And in the background, all those analytics and all of those data points are automatically aggregated and the right calculations are made. So yeah, hope that gives you a good idea of some of the use cases. Obviously, there's tons of different use cases. And part of what we do for our clients is we'll talk to you for free. I mean, we can discuss your use case and I can tell you what, based on my experience in your industry, you can tell me what your problems are and I can give you a good idea of what types of business automations are available in your industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and you mentioned logic. I think that's a really big piece of automation, right? Is how much logic is needed, how much decision-making needs to take place in this process to get a good result. And so if you've got a process that's like really rigid, really kind of black and white, like yes, no questions, then that's easy to automate, right? How do you handle levels of complexity? Like, for example, if maybe like the mortgage industry or the solar industry, where each customer might be coming from a different place, and there might be regulations around how the processes need to go. So there's a lot of decisions that are taking place. Is that pretty much the same thing? Do you just need to add more and more logic rules to how the process works, or is there kind of an evolution of automation? Are there different kinds of automation or different approaches that allow you to handle these complex situations?
If you think about decisions that need to be made, a lot of times you can, if it's black and white, the computer can make those decisions automatically. The logic in the app can make those decisions. Sometimes it's about putting the right information in front of a human so they can make a decision easier and quicker. So in the solar industry, if you're building a quote and you get a call from somebody who's in a different state maybe, and they have different regulations, it would really help if all those regulations are pulled up on the screen. This customer's pulled up on the screen. You could see a satellite picture of their house, so you know exactly what it looks like. So you can give them a quote right on the phone, and then send a tech out. You could see what techs are available in their area, exactly which tech is closest to them and would be able to come out the soonest. So like all this information, just putting that in front of the person who's, let's say, the call center rep, or the even the employee at the business who's sitting there receiving those calls, that is obviously going to massively automate their job, even though ultimately they have to make the decision of like, okay, which rep are we going to send out, and can we service this house, basically based on the zoning regulations or whatnot, right? So that's one way to go. And that's like, every single problem you have in the business, there is probably at least some level of automation that can be applied to it, even in this framework, in this paradigm where it's like humans still have to make the ultimate decision. There's still some sort of business automation. There's some way to streamline it, some way to make it better, faster, more accurate. Like there's going to be solutions in almost every single situation. And then with AI, the fact is oftentimes things that we considered, human level decisions are often being automated completely by AI. So there's a whole, area, there's a whole use case. There's like many, many different use cases for AI that is starting to emerge. And basically what we can do there is actually analyze your businesses and identify, okay, is there anything that an AI could do? I mean, really, AI is just another tool in our arsenal to automate your business, right? So if there are certain areas in your business where, for example, text generation is needed, text summarization, classification, image generation, like these certain use cases that generative AI is extremely good at, then we can just build that in because that's part of the app. That would be part of the product. Like it's basically a tool. And oftentimes to leverage these AI tools, you do need to build it into the app or customize it with code or do something like that. So that's just kind of part of our toolbox now as AI has evolved. Like we have really good understandings of like, okay, which model would be best for this use case? Like there's countless tools out there now that basically make it easier for developers to implement AI in your web application and customize it to your business, right? So really it's the same process. It just gives us even more to work with, even more ways to automate. Because now if you have something that let's say a customer support email or a chat bot for your customers, like instead of now having to build an app where a human's going to sit there and, like I was saying in the solar example, they're going to sit there and they're going to look at all the information, the zoning laws, the location, and they're going to have to manually create the quote. Well, now you can possibly have an AI do that, and it'll be instantaneous. It'll be more accurate, and the customer will be able to go on your website and get a quote and have it sent to their email immediately rather than having to wait for someone to answer the phone. Like also some customers don't really like calling into a call center because they feel like they're going to get sold on something. So there's just so many opportunities for AI to be integrated as well. And really it's just expanding business automation rather than shrinking it. It's giving us more options to automate. And so part of the consultation we provide too is like helping you decide what tool is going to be best for your use case. Since we have a lot of experience automating a lot of businesses, we can give you the options, say, hey, AI could do this, or we could do it this other way. Which one is going to be better for your business? We're going to basically take a look and tell you what we think, and then you'll have the tools and the information to make a decision on that.
I think you really hit the nail on the head with the ways that AI can be useful, or could be, like we were talking about, we have sort of the rigid portion, right? Where there's really black and white decision that needs to be made. Does it go down this way or does it go down that way? And then when you get to that point where you need to sort of make a decision based on your best judgment, or maybe based on a really complex series of decisions, AI models tend to be really good at things like classification, right? So if you can basically keep the decision making as rigid as possible and use the AI basically just for one little nodule, one little piece of that automation, where it basically just says, okay, consider this, how would you classify that? And then send it that way, right? And so then the normal automation continues from there, which is just these functions that are sort of rigid and pre-planned. But the AI could sort of choose, do I send it down that chute or down that chute based on this information, or based on, however you might have trained that model to assist in that process.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's very much limited by, is that decision-making process something that's unique to you and your business, right? Or is it something that a general AI that just has general knowledge of the world would be able to make that decision or that classification? How does that work? Do you need to train a new AI for AI-enabled automation? Or is it usually something that general knowledge that the AI is going to have is going to enable it to make those decisions that you need it to?
So if a general AI is able to make the decision, then, maybe you're able just to use ChatGPT, and you're able to give that to your employees and maybe make a custom GPT on there, on ChatGPT, and then have your employees access that and use that. Typically, you're going to get a lot more out of it if you go more of a custom route. Now, you don't need to make a new AI model necessarily. Sometimes it's just a matter of plugging in that AI model in the right place. So if you're, it's one thing to use ChatGPT. That's a whole separate window you have to open. You have to open the website. You have to have text to put in, right? If you don't have access to that text, like what if that text is in your customer's file, so then it becomes a matter of plugging that AI into the app, so that instead of having to open ChatGPT, instead you just open the customer's file and the AI writes a summary right there, or the AI makes the decision and classifies it right in the app, right? So that a lot of what we're doing a lot of times is we're using the API of these, like ChatGPT or of Google's AI or Anthropic's AI. We're using their API so that we can build their AI, their general AI model into your app, so that you have the features in your app that are powered by AI. But it can go a lot further than that, actually. So there's a few different areas where AI is very powerful for business automation. One of them that you might have heard of is RAG. It's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, right? So basically, the AI is able to look into its knowledge base. And let's say you put all of your business knowledge or business knowledge about a very specific domain in that AI's knowledge base. And what that does is it grounds the AI to that knowledge base, so that that knowledge base is now the AI's single source of truth, right? So let's say you put all of your product information in there. You put all of the common questions and answers that your customers ask. You put decisions like, if the customer asks this, then here's what you should say. You put all those things in this database, and the AI is specifically trained that when it receives a question, or when it is put into a situation where it needs to give an answer, it looks into its knowledge and finds the answer there. And if it can't find it, it won't give an answer, or it'll give a pre-programmed answer that you tell it to give. which means that it won't be making these mistakes, right? Like you see these hallucinations that happen on these, on ChatGPT or on other models like that. Those can be eliminated by using RAG to build a specialized app, to using even a pre-built solution out there that takes your business data and uses that as its single source of truth rather than just whatever data was in its training data, right? So that's one way to go. And that's very good for particular use cases. Now, there's a lot of talk about the next generations of these AI models, and there's a lot of people saying that probably RAG will become obsolete in the future because the AI models will not need it anymore, right? Because the context window for these AI models will grow so large, and they'll become much more accurate, and the hallucinations will be fixed. So now you won't need to actually build a specialized RAG bot or an AI that uses retrieval augmented generation. Instead, you could just put all of your business data in the AI's context window, which is basically in its working memory, and it'll be able to accurately grab the pieces of information it needs right from there. So that is something to think about, and we can help you understand that. If you were to come to me and tell me about your business problem, I can help you understand, okay, is this a solution where in the short term, RAG might be a good way to go? Or is this something where we can do this a little differently, or maybe even wait on it because pretty soon, that solution would be obsolete, right? So there's a lot of knowledge that goes into like choosing the best AI solution. There's also another way to go with AI, which is fine-tuning an AI model for a specific use case. And it's actually a lot easier than a lot of people think. So there's a lot of APIs out there and developer tools that are available to basically take some of these AI models and give them very high quality business data. So let's say that you want an AI to be able to generate press releases, let's just say as an example, right? So these press releases need to be in a very specific format. They need to be the same length, like they need to be not too long and not too short. There's a bunch of stylistic things that you need in these press releases, right? And if you try to use ChatGPT or you try to use a standard AI model, it may do 5 of them right, and then the other 5, it might mess up a little bit, right? So does that mean you can't use it? You can't use it for the press release use case? Well, not necessarily, because if you are able to get together a collection of, let's say, 100 press releases that your team has written, right? And they're really high quality examples, and you're able to give it the input and the output, which is like, okay, here's the raw information, like maybe an unstructured paragraph or an email or something that describes what the information that's in the press release, and then the output is this finished press release that's in the right formats, the right length. It's it's perfect. You give 100 AI, you give 100 examples, and you run a fine tuning job, which is basically changing the AI's brain to match your use case specifically. For like $30 worth of fine tuning, you can now have an AI that is perfect at press releases. It gets them right 99% of the time. That is a really good use case for businesses because a lot of times these, the AI like ChatGPT and these other models, they're just not quite there yet. But if you fine tune the model, then all of a sudden it becomes exactly what your business needs. And imagine also building a fine tuned model into your app so that now it's like, you pull up the customer's profile, or you pull up, the app in your browser, you click a button and it generates a custom press release, right there in the app. And then you click another button and it emails it, right? So like this is how we can stack these technologies on top of each other to achieve like basically mind-boggling automation efficiency. Like that it could save your business. If you were paying somebody full-time to do those press releases, $60,000 a year, well, one fine-tuned AI model and an app could potentially cut out that entire, salary out of your expenses, right? So, and maybe that person can go do something else in the business that it's less, monotonous and less tedious. I hope that gives you an idea about how these tools can be used, because there is a lot of ways that they can be used. And people, if you're just looking at like ChatGPT or whatever, people don't realize that AI is already at a point where it can probably automate 50% of knowledge work if it was used in the right way and fine-tuned and built into tools. I think about 50% of knowledge work can already be automated by AI.
And so you're touching on some pretty pretty big topics here. Let's dive into that a little bit more, because a lot of people have concerns around, what are the ethical considerations that we need to have when it comes to the technology's capabilities. And one of those ethical concerns is job displacement, right? Are machines going to replace all of us? Are we all going to lose our jobs and not have, any way to make money anymore? So obviously, there's a lot of speculation, and it's hard to, we can't predict the future. But in your opinion, should people be worried about that? Should people be investing in these types of automations right now? Should they be holding off? Well, how does the future look in your opinion?
I think that people should be investing in these technologies, because when it comes down to it, other businesses are going to invest. Really, the next couple decades is going to be defined by the businesses who are able to invest early and powerfully into AI technologies and into business automation. If your competitor invests in AI and they are able to cut their costs in half for a particular service, how long are customers going to continue paying you to do the same thing for twice the price, right? So, and not only that, but a lot of these technologies, not just AI, by the way, a lot of these business automation technologies improve the customer experience dramatically in many different ways. If a customer goes on your website and you have a shiny web application that they can log into, and they can see all of their, everything they need to see right there, and everything's super fast, super streamlined. And then when they have a question, they can ask an AI and it can give them a perfect answer, or it can print them out a perfect quote. Like that is such a dramatic difference in experience than having to call in to talk to somebody who then says, okay, I'll send you a quote in a couple of days, and then when you get the quote, it's like maybe not where you were expecting. Like there's just a massive difference in customer experience too. So really, as businesses, what we want to do is we want to give our customers the very best experience possible. We want to provide the very best service we possibly can at the very best price, right? And we either want to make our shareholders happy, or we want to continue growing our business, because at the end of the day, we have a mission to benefit society. We have a mission to benefit our customers and our employees. So yeah, absolutely, I would invest in these technologies. The question is how to do that in the smartest way and with the least amount of risk, right? So that's where knowing where things are going is useful. So as far as job displacement and where AI is headed, yes, there's going to be job displacement. There's also going to be new jobs created. There are a lot of opportunities in the technology space that are being created, but to some extent, it's going to be hard for some people to transition. If you're a call center worker that's taking phone calls, it might be hard for you to transition from that to a prompt engineer, right? Or from that to like a developer or a business leader or something like that. One of these other jobs that might open up, because there's going to be, first of all, there's a lot more call center workers who they may be unskilled in those other areas. And I do think that there is probably going to be more jobs over time that are disappearing than new jobs that are being created, even though there will be new jobs created. The reason for that is because once AI takes over a task that it becomes better at than a human, the human never gets any part of that task back. Like the human will never again outcompete the AI. Like chess, for example, AIs can now compete in chess at a superhuman level. We're never going to retake that throne, right? It's not going to happen. And so every time there's another thing that AI takes over better than a human, at some point there's no more things for it to do better, right? It's just going to be able to do almost everything. Now, I think it's extremely speculative to say when that's going to happen or how fast it's going to happen, or exactly would it be 100% of jobs, will it just be 80% of jobs? Like, it's very speculative. And for most business people out there, they're more worried about the short term, like okay, what do I do? What can I do now with AI? And is it the right time for me to invest in it now? And if so, how can it benefit my business and my customers? So looking into the tools and how you can implement them and how you can make your business ready for AI, transition your business into an AI ready business. That's where you're going to be able to get benefits. And no matter how things change in the future, the important thing is that you're adaptable to that change, right? That you have the mindset of saying, okay, if we're in the call center industry right now, we have to realize and we have to be real about the fact that soon, like there are a lot of things in this industry that are going to be automated. So how can you pivot? How can you change your business model? How can you incorporate the technology so that maybe you benefit from the transition? Maybe you actually gain instead of losing from the transition. You're one of the winners. And the way to do that is to know as much as possible about what this technology can do and how to implement it, and to go out there and get consultation on your specific use case so that you can start moving in that direction, hopefully before your competitors do.
I definitely see that, where there's like some people are jumping in way too quickly into being like, well, for example, I just read, I think last week I read about a company that their AI chatbot gave incorrect information about a promotion or like a refund. And then they ended up getting taken to court and they had to honor it because their official, representative on their website told their customer that they would get this deal, this promo. So there's definitely some risk there, and you don't want to jump in too quickly to going, well, I want to be on the front line of this innovation curve and I want to be, at the cutting edge. But then there's also a balance where you don't want to get left behind. You want to be kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. You want to be testing out what's possible, what's new. Does it work well for my business, for my customers? How do customers react to it, right? Because I think that's going to be a big piece of which jobs stick around. You might not want to go to a robot barber, right? Or even if AI is really, really accurate and good at giving you information, you still might not want it to be your lawyer, or you might not want it to be the person who serves you your food at a restaurant. Like you said, it's very speculative at this point. We don't know exactly where the impacts will be and how big they'll be, but you want to find that balance, right, of engaging with the technology. Don't hold back too much. Don't be too scared, but don't dive all the way in there either. And make sure that you're getting good advice, right, on what the realistic capabilities are today. What's it going to do for me today? And what can I be doing today so that I'm ready when there's more functionality down the line?
One thing we can know, and I'm pretty confident in, is that experiences are going to be something that people continue to want. Like there's going to be a premium on really good experiences. And that may be a customer service experience. It may be an in-person experience. It may be, there's an AI that can do something for your customer, but they just like the way that they like your user interface. They like your method of doing things because there's a bit more of a personal touch to it, or something. Like experience is going to be important. So how can you adjust your business so that you're really providing a top-notch experience to your customers and also to your employees? Because there's going to be a talent crunch too. Like in some cases, like, I don't know, like if you look at AI engineers, like these companies are constantly trying to steal each other's employees, right? Because it's such a in-demand job. So like if you basically are able to enhance the experience of your employees and your customers, that's going to put you ahead, because even if there is another AI solution out there that can do it, you're going to have a lot more loyalty from your customers and employees if they are able to get that kind of experience.
So we mentioned that, you want to find the right balance in looking forward and holding back, right? So let's talk about some of those practical perspectives that business owners should have or decision makers should have. What should people be focused on today? What should they be doing right now when it comes to business automation and, kind of keeping in mind where the technology might be going over the coming years?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is there are so many opportunities to automate that have nothing to do with AI. Like for your business operations, right? Like for making sure that your business is streamlined and that your customers have what they need and that their user experience is really good. I would look at that whole, pipeline and say, okay, is there, what are our biggest pain points? Because the truth is that whatever those pain points are in your business or for your customers, there is probably something that business automation can improve or fix. So it may be hard to think about it like, okay, what type of business automation do I need as a business? That may be kind of hard to think about, but what's easy to think about is, what are my pain points, right? If you think about it from that perspective, what are my biggest pain points today? It's probably something automation can resolve, or at least, increase it, like reduce the issue or reduce the pain quite substantially. So basically, that's the first thing I would focus on, is what are my highest priority pain points, and can business automation solve those? And you can do your research on that. You can look into solutions. Like, I spend a lot of time every day, like, just researching different solutions and tools, because you'll find that you never even knew how many tools are out there that are the perfect tool for you, but you just didn't know about it, right? So I would definitely, speaking of AI, there are some things it does really well. For example, research is one of them. There's a tool called Perplexity that is absolutely fantastic for businesses. I mean, really, for anyone who does any knowledge work, including students or anything else. Like, if you don't have this tool, you probably need to get it, because it's like ChatGPT, but about 10 times better for research, right? Because it's basically an AI search engine, like the replacement for Google. It's like Google, but AI powered, right? So trust me on this. You want to look into that, and doing research into your pain points, and starting to use AI as like that research assistant to actually find the solutions that are going to make the biggest impact for your business. That's probably the place I would start diving into this topic. Like, what types of automations have you not thought about yet that might be able to solve some of your pain points? And, don't be afraid to get some consultation from people that do this for a living. Like, if you want to jump on a call with me, I'm more than happy to give you some consultation. The thing is, like, my philosophy, and probably the philosophy of a lot of other people that sort of do this, is I'm more than happy to jump on and give you a consultation, even if you're not really interested in buying anything from me, because I'm basically building my own brand by helping you. And so it's no problem. Like, if, don't be afraid to reach out to an expert to actually talk about some of this stuff, and see how you might be able to improve your business with this type of automation. So I'd say those are my main tips, I would say.